Everyone, it is Miss Connell for Health Science 1. I picked a really bad day, which was last Friday, to not hit the record button, which was not intentional. And so I have to make a video today to help you with the Unit 4 activity 4.10 on these math conversions. And I bet you're like, oh my goodness, Miss Connell, I am in Health Science 1. I am not in math. But if you plan on going into health science career field, math is in your immediate future, like 100% guaranteed, no doubt about it. So we're going to go through these math conversions. They're actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. They're kind of repetitive. And so I am here to help you with it. And we're going to get through it together. So don't stress. All right. So here we go. We're going to start with number 1. And once, like I said, once you guys get the hang of what this looks like, you will kind of be getting the hang of how to do the rest on your own. And I'm not going to be giving you the answers. I will just be helping you set up the problem. All right. A patient is prescribed 80 milligrams. Looking over here, milligram is a weight of tramadol hydrochloride injection. The stock dose is 50 milligrams over 2 milliliters or per 2 milliliters. What volume will you require? Well, milliliters is a unit of volume for fluids. So we need to convert our weight of what we are prescribed, given what we already have in stock, to figure out the volume that we require. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a proportion. We're going to start with what the answer gives us, what we already know. So the known values that we have are 50 milligrams over 2 milliliters. And I will do I'm going to have to underline, but I hope that you guys can kind of follow along with me that what I mean by the underline is like a divided by sign. So I will try and fix this for you guys so you guys can see it a little bit better, but just kind of know as I move forward that that's what I mean. Okay, so that's what we know. That's what we're given. And we're trying to use our 50 milligrams, there we go, it's a little bit easier to read, to figure that out. So I'm going to then set this up as a proportion. When I say proportion, some of you are like, oh, this sounds familiar. We did this in math. Yes, you did. When we set up a proportion, we put like with like on the top or like with like on the bottom. So we're given 80 milligrams. We're going to put that like value on top because we had 50 milligrams on top on the left side. We're going to put the milligrams on top on the right side. Okay. And as you can see, what we don't know and what we're trying to find out is the volume. So how do you solve a proportion? To solve a proportion, you do something called cross multiplication and division. Okay. I'll zoom in a little bit on this so that you guys can see it a little bit better. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it won't let me. Never mind. Okay, so when you do cross multiplication and division, you basically cross over the equal sign, so 80 times 2, and then you divide by 50. Okay, so for a cross multiplication, you're going to hear me say this a few times. You cross multiply and divide. You cross multiply the values you have, divide by that number on top, and that will give you the number on bottom. In this case, that number on bottom is going to be your answer for number 1. Please note that in order to get points for these questions, you need to also show your work. So it would be beneficial for you to have something that looks like this. Okay, moving on to number 2. A laboratory technician measures 48 milliliters of urine sample in a 4-ounce beaker. How many more milliliters of urine are necessary to fill the beaker? Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of different math here, okay? First of all, 4 ounces is one of the units we're looking at, and milliliters is the other, and the answer needs to also be in milliliters. So I need to know the conversion between ounces and milliliters. So I'm going to use my conversion chart over here, and it shows me that every 30 milliliters is 1 ounce. Okay, so you can set up a proportion to figure out how many milliliters are in a beaker, and then all we have to do is subtract. So how many milliliters are in a beaker, knowing that 30 milliliters is 1 ounce? So we're going to set up our proportion again. Okay, 30 milliliters is equal to 1 ounce. So then what we're going to do is we're going to set up the other side of the proportion to reflect the same. Milliliters over ounces. Okay, so we have Okay, sorry, we have 4 ounces in our beaker that we're trying to solve for. So we actually don't know what's on top right now. We only know what's on bottom in this case, which is 4 ounces. Okay, when I set up my proportion, we're going to cross multiply and divide. 30 times 4 divided by 1 ounce. 30 times 4 is 120, and divided by 1 is still 120. So I know that I have 120 milliliters in my beaker, but the question's not asking how many milliliters are in a beaker. The question is asking how many more milliliters of urine are necessary to fill the beaker once there's already 48 milliliters inside. So simple subtraction, 120 minus 48 will give you your answer. Okay, moving on to number 3. You fill a storage cabinet with 12 bottles of normal saline. Each bottle contains 1,000 milliliters. How many ounces of this solution are in the storage cabinet? Well, this is another simple one. We have 12 bottles with each bottle having 1,000 milliliters. So doing a simple math conversion, how many milliliters are in the storage cabinet? Well, that's easy. 12 bottles. Every bottle is 1,000 milliliters. So 12 times 1,000 will give us 12,000 milliliters. But again, the question's not asking that. The question's asking how many ounces of the solution are in the storage cabinet. So we'll set up a proportion again. So we know we have 12,000 milliliters, but we need to know what that is in ounces. We're going to use the same conversion we used in our last problem. 30 milliliters is equivalent to 1 ounce. My milliliters are going to go on top and ounces on the bottom. Okay, and then you cross multiply and divide. 12,000 times 1 divided by 30 will give you your answer for number 3. Number 4, a patient is prescribed 6 milligrams of cough medication. The label on the prescription says there are 2 milligrams per 4 milliliters. How many teaspoons of cough medication does the patient need to take? So again, we're going to use what we know, 2 milligrams per 4 milliliters. Okay, and we're going to set up a proportion with 6 milligrams. And we want to know, that's obviously going to be able to tell us how many milliliters there are. Okay, so in this one, 6 times 4, you should know that on the top of your head, divided by 2, also should know that on the top of your head, will give you 12 milliliters. But the question is not asking for how many milliliters, it's asking for how many teaspoons. So I'm going to find my teaspoon conversion here. 1 teaspoon equals 5 milliliters. So we're going to set up another proportion, completely separate from this one. 5, oops, here we go. 5 milliliters over 1 teaspoon. And that's going to be equal to 12 milliliters over blank, because we don't know how many teaspoons that is. We cross multiply and divide. 12 times 1 divided by 5 will give you the amount of teaspoons for number 4. Number 5, a patient requires 80 milligrams of risperidone. The stock dose is usually something that we should know for our conversions. 40 milligrams per 10 milliliters. I'm just going to write that because I know I'm going to need it. What volume is required? So again, this is going to be a simple one. We're already in milligrams. We just need to know milliliters for the volume. So we're going to put like with like and cross multiply and divide. 80 times 10 divided by 40. Okay, that one's a simple conversion. Number 6, almost done. Normal urinary output for an adult is between 400 to 2,000 milliliters daily. If a person follows the recommended 8 glasses of 8 ounces of liquid intake and has an output of 1,500 milliliters, what is their net liquid gain or loss? So we should know what the loss is or what the gain is. So to solve this problem, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how much liquid is being consumed total if we're following the recommendation, which is 8 glasses of 8 ounces 8 times 8 is 64, so we should know that one. And we're going to see what that ounces is in milliliters because we have the output in 1500 milliliters. We're going to convert our 64 ounces into milliliters. So again, we're using that same conversion, 30 milliliters and 1 ounce. So 1 ounce equals 30 milliliters, and cross multiply and divide. Oh, and I guess for this one, well, actually, I don't think I do. If you cross multiply and divide, 64 times 30, obviously divided by 1 is going to be the same as 64 times 30. Whatever number you get, you need to subtract from or subtract 1500. So remember, the liquid output has 1500 milliliters. So whatever your difference is, it's either a gain or a loss. So let's say your number is less than 1500, whatever this number is. Okay, that means that you have a net gain, right? Because output was 1500 and 64 times 30, if that's less than 1500, that means that your water retained the water, or your body retained the water. If it's over 1500, that means it would be a net loss. Okay, last one, Dimilor is 0.75 grams ordered. Scored tablets are labeled 500 milligrams each. How many tablets will you give? So we need to do a grams to milligrams conversion. This is a simple one because it's in the same category for weight. So 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams. So 0.75 times 1,000 will give you your weight in milligrams, which gives you 750. You take 750 and you're going to divide it by 500 milligrams because that's how much the tablets are, and that will tell you how many tablets you will give. Please note here for full credit that you submit your answers with clear work that shows the conversions. For partial credit, you can answer the work, but you might not have explained all of them, and you will not get any credit if you're not submitting answers or you're not submitting work along with your answers. So keep that in mind. Watch this video again if you need more help.